Hey guys, so this video I want to talk about detailing your hard surface modeling projects because this is a pretty elusive step that you don't see too many videos on, but it's really important. And I think most of you by now probably understand the idea of using primary, secondary, and tertiary shapes when it comes to coming up with a design of a hard surface project, right? So what we're going to do here is just create a silhouette. We're going to play around with this real quick in 2D. And then we're going to go over to 3D and play around with it over there as well. So we're going to start with this, and I'm going to alpha lock it and just turn it to a dark gray real quick. And I'm going to recut it. So your primary shape, you need to break it up. Usually, not always, but it helps. When you do break it up, you want to create complementary secondary shapes. So you can see if we do a little bisect like so, we get two additional shapes. And, well, it's going to complement the primary, obviously, when we do it like this. So we can continue breaking it up if we wanted to. We can try different little arrangements and whatnot. We're just going to keep it simple for this one. And now we're going to add some more detail to this. Okay, this might be something of a secondary shape still. It's pretty large. But at some point, you may find yourself wanting to add additional details. And those additional details are going to be your tertiary shapes, right? A lot of times little things like that can occur. Some little nuanced things occurring here or there throughout the whole design. Right? But what happens after this step, right? This is where a lot of you guys are going to get hung up, and you're not really going to know exactly maybe what you want or need to do, perhaps. Okay, so we add our tertiary. Yeah, let's just add a couple more details. Why not? Okay. And we could, of course, detail the front here a little bit more. And tertiary shapes are details more or less, but this is where you get hung up, right? So we did primaries, we did secondaries, and we did tertiary, right? That's usually where most tutorials stop. But here's the trick about this. There's also fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and up to an infinite amount of additional details you can add. So you don't stop here. So any one of these things that we've been working on, you can go back and refine perhaps in this little sketch, but these get detail passes as well. Okay, so you can think circle, right? And what happens in this circle, right? That's the next question. Well, depending on what you want to do, you can start doing some different things on it perhaps. You want to add little elements like this, that's fun. Something in the middle. Maybe you do like the circle with the square coming out the side. Okay. And so you can explore either doing these as subtractions in basically negative space or positive space, where you push them out of the surface perhaps, right? Or sometimes going back and forth. But this is basically your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th level details, whatever you end up using, right? And so that's going to happen everywhere, more than likely. Might come through somewhere like here. Do a little piece like this. And now you're going to use, well, maybe you have this like chamfered almost, or angled. It would look something like that, perhaps, right? So if we drop the tone here a little bit more in this corner, maybe it flattens back out in this area. And now we have some more additional detail taking place in this area. You see how that goes? So basically, your details get detailed. That's the idea. All right. This is going to happen to pretty much any shape within the shape. So it could happen to any of these potentially. Now, you don't always have to overdo it either. You can leave them really simplistic and not think too much about it. But this is the chance you get to go through and say you want to start making something like an air vent here or something, right? This is when you do that step, basically. You refine these. So maybe you have a little cutout here of sorts in all the corners. Might not look too good because I didn't measure it or line it up, but see what I'm getting at? And then you guessed it, every one of these little sections could get further refined. So any shape within a shape. It means these little potentially bolts, right? You may go through and refine these things even. Maybe it's a hex bolt. I'm going to have a hard time doing this one. It's so small. Might be a hex bolt. And then on the sides of it, it might have some little cutouts or something, right? So this is what you're going to go through when you're working on hard surface projects, right? Now there's kind of like minor details as well. So sometimes you have just small surfacing details that really, well, it does add interest to the surface of the shape here. It's not like a primary feature, if you would. So there's things like that that take place as well. But also how you do your edges, if you bevel them, or if you chamfer them, or if you add something a little bit more intricate on an edge, perhaps, right? So when you're doing your Boolean Ngon workflows, start thinking in this manner, like, hey, I'm going to do, say, a cube first. We're working hard surface shapes potentially. And we do a loop cut. Let's drag this down. And now we pull it forward. Do a bevel here. We'll bevel this. Or actually, let's bevel these first. This corner. Bevel those. Maybe not quite as far. All right. Symmetrize it. Now we can think about breaking up the big primary shape here, or we could start just working some detail into this shape, perhaps. It's really up to us. I'm going to go ahead and use box cutter, Ngon cutter. We're going to do a slice. And I'm just going to do a quick slice through here and go all the way through. Okay. So we can shift click, and I just want to grab this edge back here. So Alt Z, hit Control B, and we'll do a little bevel there. Like that. So I can grab this top piece now and can scale it if I wanted to. So you can do things like this as well, potentially. Or you can move them down. So that slice tool is pretty cool because it basically splits it up into two objects with more or less kind of the same Boolean setup occurring on them anyways. And you can do things like that anyways, so which is great. And now you can add some additional stuff as well. So if you want to do a cube, I want to pull this down here. We can go ahead and maybe squish it a little bit. We can grab all of these edges, Control Alt Shift clicking, and then we can hit Control B and hit C to clamp. Press A, M, merge by distance. Now we can do that number. So we can pull this out here. And we'll go ahead and do a Boolean subtraction real quick, just to see where we're at. I'm going to mirror it across using machine tools. And we can see what's going to happen here, right? So we might want to do later on another box cut. We'll use a cutter, circle. Just use 32 sides for now. We can find that center dot using the dot system, which is actually up here, the snapping system, right? So now maybe we can do something like that. But we can press E and pull it forward a little bit. Or we can make it smaller perhaps and push it backwards. But this is where you're going to get into layering basically. So now you're going to be able to start detailing your details is more or less what I'm talking about here. So you start adding additional elements. Shift T will do a taper. Okay. E will let you work it back that way, and E again will let you work it the other way. Okay. So now we'll just do a regular box cut. Press G, move it. Press E, push that in. Shift click. And don't forget you can do things like taper or skew your shapes as well. That'll take you pretty far away, right? You can see I pushed that in a little bit too far maybe. Bring it back out. And something more like that. And I'm going to push this inwards, but we're going to have to reduce the size of it when I do this. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so we're already getting some interest on that one perhaps. And we can go ahead and do some other stuff as well since we're at it. But this is the idea of detailing basically your details. That's more or less what you're doing. And why a lot of stuff that's hard surface looks really great. Meanwhile, a lot of your stuff might not be doing quite as well. But it's really simple. when you start to break it down like this. So you can see we do a Boolean from this one. Okay, we'll grab the shape again, go into edit mode. And I'm just going to do a quick bevel here. And that's that for that. Now we could try shading auto smooth if we have issues. Hopefully it'll correct that. We might have to bump the auto smooth up or down a little bit because we have a little bit of a, it's going backwards a little bit too much, but we can get it to work, okay? So we'll just keep going with box cutter. Push that in. I'm going to hit 1 to mirror it, and then V to array it. Oop. Maybe not. Let's try that again. So we'll do V to mirror it, or V array it first, and then we'll worry about mirroring it. Okay, so there we go. For whatever reason, I can't array very well until when I'm first trying to do it with box cutter. I have to actually go to the modifier. This doesn't seem to work out too well otherwise. I think some of my settings are messed up. But I'm going to edit mode now. We can take this piece, bring it up a little. Take this top section here, you could scale it out. Maybe even push one of these a little bit further that way. You can see we can start to work this area out basically. Alright, just like that. That place for that little spot is starting to look a little bit better anyways. We can always add additional elements wherever we see fit too. We can try doing one here. If we do a cube, scale it down, pull it all the way through, and we could try to do a bevel on it. Hit C to clamp it, mouse wheel up. That doesn't quite work out the way I want. Let's do it manually. Okay. And we'll have to press A, M, merge by distance, or we'll have doubles. Okay, gets rid of those doubles. And shade it auto smooth, and we'll go ahead and do a Boolean subtraction right here. Take a look at how it looks. And it does seem to be working quite well. So, alright. So this is what you're going to do for your projects, more than likely. And keep going through this process. Finding little areas to chisel away at your model. Shift clicking, doing some bevels, and just take your time through the whole thing. It'll turn out pretty nice by the end of it if you don't get too crazy with it, and make nice clean shapes for the most part, and just kind of place them carefully and throughout the design. I try not to overdo it. That's one of the big things you'll run into as well. Very easy to get carried away and start doing a bunch of things you don't necessarily need to do. And don't forget, you can always do additions as well as subtractions. So you don't always have to cut things in that manner. You can add additional elements. Start doing some stuff like that perhaps. And you can use the N-gon cutter as well. Instead of using dots, you can turn on the grid up here. Hit that little icon. You might want to set it to 1 meter. I like using 1 meter myself anyways, but that's going to be up to you. You can use something like 0.5 meter, 0.1 or whatever. But you can see if I hold control, we're going to snap to every meter. Okay. If I hold control and shift, I'll snap to every 10 centimeters. And I just find this to be what I personally like. But you may find the other settings to be better for you. So you can see we've done that. Press E, Shift T, 1 to mirror, Shift click, needed. And I'm going to go ahead and bevel these. And yes, you can use the bevels with box cutter. You don't have to do it this way. I think they perform a little bit slower while doing Booleans, but I also like using Remeshing to correct these things if I need to. So, but once again, we'll be adding cuts on your details, right? Or shape changes on your details anyways. If I do a simple bevel like that, I'll use that sometimes. But this little area here, you can use the N-gon cutter again. You can just eyeball these as well if you wanted to. You see, you might want to do like a little chamfer looking shape here. It's got a big edge there. Shift T, 1, E, bevel. You see it's getting a little slow now. And that's usually why I don't go with it, but shift click on edit mode. Oh, these ones, whoops, just those ones. Now whatever that was up there. Top edge. Alright, now let's do a box. And we are lining up to, that should be the object. So I had the wrong object selected, I guess. Move that one back, mirror it, bevel it. Oh, this one you don't have to bevel. Shift T, taper it, shift click, we'll bevel the bottom. Alt Z back into that. Only the one side is needed. Don't need that many segments. And there we go. So just for a final touch, let's go ahead and do one more cut and we'll call this video here. I think you guys get the idea right about now that it's really quite simple when you start approaching it like this. It's nothing that complicated at all, guys. Not going to be any harder, really. Okay, so I'm not going to taper it. Not like that anyways. Shift click, edit mode. I am going to taper it, but it just wasn't going out in the direction I needed it to go out as much. So we'll do that. Bring it down a little. Take these and bevel them. Alright. So if you want to try beveling it at the very end, you might get away with that. Usually doing a lot of booleans, it kind of gets a little bit rough. But you could try, definitely. I can see we have a little bit of an issue with that one. Alright. And so one last thing, if you want to try doing a quad remesher on these, you certainly can. I would duplicate them, right click, convert it to a mesh. And then when you move it, use incremental grid snap, or excuse me, use increment snap, or you could use grid snapping. But you just move it out and hold control. Duplicate, right click, convert to a mesh. Not all of these shapes will easily convert with quad remesher, but you can try anyways and see if you can get them to work out. So just a quick little tip on how to set this up. If they're symmetrical, turn on symmetry. You can use normal splitting. That's if they're shaded auto smooth. Usually that'll work out. Anything that's sharp will help guide quad remesher. You can leave the other settings on as well. If we use materials, it'll also help you potentially break this thing up as well. So we're going to turn our adaptive size up. Quad counts, I think, will go up on this one quite a bit. So I'm just going to max it. We'll see how that works out. You are limited on your quad counts based off how many edges you have here on the segments. Just keep that in mind. If you don't have enough, you're going to get a faceted looking remesh. And so there's an add-on as well you might want to grab. You'll have to be in face selection. So you have to press 3, select face. And you can use this add-on called Curve Face Color add-on by Kishiro. And you can go ahead and click this thing, and it'll go ahead and do an assignment of materials like so. So we could do that on the other one as well. Just press Alt-Q to get over there real quick. Add Curve Face Colors to that as well. And we may have a hit, we may have a miss here. We'll find out in just a second. We're just going to go ahead and remesh this one. And we're going to remesh this one as well. So now we have quad topology here potentially, but you can see we lost the detail here on this one at least because it's not over here. So I do need to mirror it. So I'm going to use Mesh Machine, symmetrize it real quick. Gonna mirror from that left side to this right side. We'll try it one more time. You can see we got this kind of result here. Shade it smooth. We'll switch to single color here just for a second and subdivide it one time. And we did not get a perfect result here, but it's not too bad overall. It's a little bit soft if you ever run into this issue. A lot of times these edges that were sharp, you'll see they're still marked sharp. You can hit Shift G, select by sharpness. And now you can actually run a bevel on these. You got to be careful with this one though. Select one edge first. Bevel it. you might have too many segments for all of these to bevel very easily. So change that to 1. Okay, and then hit Control Z, and then now you can do Shift G, select by sharpness, hit Control B, and next time you bevel, you'll have a segment of 1. See how that worked out? So we can do that down here as well. And we're going to do it one more time down here. Now you want to use that chamfer, or that 1 segment bevel basically, because what's going to end up happening is in some corners, if you use 2 segments, it's going to create a really wild topology that doesn't work out very well. Okay, when you do the 1 segment, what it does is it will create, where it would create bad topology before, it'll actually just create an n-gon, which may not be preferable, but you can potentially do that as well. Okay, so that way you can push them off. You can also try using creasing as well. So any of those sharps, you could go ahead and select all the sharps again, and then just set mean crease up in value and try to pull the shape a little bit sharper if you wanted to. But overall, it's not a bad workflow, and I think you guys should enjoy messing around with it at least and trying to figure out how to work it a little bit better perhaps. Here's the thing about it though, no matter how much time and effort you put into the quad remesher to try to get like perfect results, usually it won't give you that, and you will have to go in and just kind of clean some things up by the end of it. Little odd and ends just get hung up for whatever reason, and once you understand the basics of topology and subdivision modeling, this suddenly becomes a whole lot easier to deal with, because you can see we just need maybe like right here another edge, create that vertex. You can hit Alt-S, bring it out. Now we have these 2 edges, we can dissolve them. So our little issues will have a much easier time working out with the understanding of subdivision modeling anyways. So that's pretty much it for detailing your details. You can see it's very easy to create these kinds of things very fast, and it's a lot of fun. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Check you out on the next one. All right, take care.